You can see on these center wheel caps, they are not looking too nice. It used to have like a almost like a chrome. It has the same color aluminum. It has that aluminum color that the same wheel has, right? Around the outside, and all that paint has gone. It's chipped away. So what I'm gonna do is just mask off some of this area, and we're just gonna spray paint this black. This chrome ringer on the outside, you can actually take the clips out on the back. You can see them right there. When you pop those out, then the whole ring just comes right off. You want to be careful not to break these tabs. It's really easy, and we learned the hard way. We broke a few tabs off. We're just going to end up just using epoxy to glue this back in. That'll solve all our problems. And this Audi symbol that's in the center, you can also pop those tabs out if you wanted, but what we're going to do is just mask this off so we don't risk breaking those tabs. So with a clean rag, we're going to just clean this with rubbing alcohol. Make sure we get everything off of it, all the grease, so the paint can adhere to it. And we also want to just scuff this up a little bit with a piece of Scotch-Brite, just so the paint will adhere a little bit better if we scratch it. Just light scratches like that. That'll give somewhere where the paint can really kind of attach into. So we'll just put some light scratches in there. You can see it start to flake off some of the oxidization that was on the plastic. This is definitely cleaning off some of that stuff that would fall off easily. You could use a tack cloth or a piece of masking tape just to clean all the dust off, because we don't want any of that still on here. We can just drag it across the surface, and that'll pick up all the dirt. So if we flip over this piece of tape, you can see all the stuff that I got off of there. It's definitely important to go over it with either a tack cloth or some tape to get everything off. So I have it on a piece of cardboard, and what I'm gonna do with the first coat is just a light coat. We're not trying to get everything done on the first coat. I'm just gonna kind of dust it on there, and eventually over the coats, we'll build it up to a nice solid paint. Now we're gonna go on with the second coat. This is dry, and really what we're gonna do is do this dust coat, which is kind of always the hardest. You wanna put everything on the first coat sometimes. And then on the third coat, that's when we're really gonna have the final coat, and it's gonna have a good finish to it. Doing it in these multiple steps really helps it adhere to the plastic a little bit better. It's also important you cover the edges. And now for the third coat, this is where we're gonna do the final coat. This is where it's gonna be all shiny. And we just gotta make sure we don't let it run. We don't wanna lay too much paint on, but we're gonna lay a little bit more than we have been on these two first coats. Now I'm just taking the paint as heavy as I can get it without it making any runs. You can see it's definitely starting to shine now. And after every time you use spray paint, you always want to spray the can upside down just to clear the nozzle out. Until you'll hear the air hiss out instead of paint. And now this is ready to put away, and you'll be able to use it again. If you don't do that, the paint will dry in the nozzle and you really just can't use it anymore. And I'll go ahead and wipe the tip off here with a rag just to make sure the paint won't dry on the tip as well. Now the paint is all dry, and it definitely looks nice. It's shiny. Definitely a lot better than the old ones. This one's off the other side of the car, and it's definitely not looking very good. So we're gonna do the same thing that we did to this one on this one eventually, but I cleaned up this chrome piece that was right there. It's a much shinier. Now we can go ahead and remove the masking tape we had on here. This is always one of the fun parts. And also under here, I cleaned up before I put the masking tape on. You can see the difference between this color and that color. This is brown, that's back to the original color. Now if we take this chrome piece and just kind of set it in there, we get an idea of what this will look like. I'll tell you what, that is way better than this. This is so ugly. This has a nice black finish to it, and I'm really happy with the result. So to put this ring back on, we're gonna use some epoxy, and epoxy is a really strong glue. So we're just going to mix up a little bit of this. So it's a 50-50 2-part epoxy. So you want to add the same amount you just added there. So now we're going to put some glue right where those tabs are and around there. Now it'd be best just to take your time and try not to break those tabs, but they're very thin and very easy to break. So what we're gonna do is just get the glue on the nail and put it right around those tabs. And of course we don't want it to pool on the other side. All this needs to be on the underside, so it's all invisible. All right, we now have good coverage of glue all around the edge here. So let's go ahead and put this on here. We'll have to line those tabs up and then drop it in and push it in place. Make sure you get that glue off your hands. Now with this in place, we're just going to let that sit and let that glue adhere to the surface. Now that the glue is hardened, you can see on top of the lid here, that glue it's hard, it's just barely soft. And it only takes about 5 minutes. Now we're gonna make some mechanical bonds on the other side, the back side. Now we're going to form a mechanical bond with this glue while it's very liquidy. What I'm gonna do is just drip it into the places where the tabs broke, and it's just flowing in there, and I want it to pool up, and that'll kind of create a new tab. So I'm gonna do that on the places where those tabs broke, and go around, do that. So here's what we had on the car at first. Definitely doesn't look too good. And then the next one over here is the one that we fixed. We just cleaned it up and spray painted the outside. And this one right here is a brand new one that we found online. But at first I thought that it looks exactly the same from the picture, but when you look under it, there's different mechanics underneath. There's 2 different styles of wheels that come on the Audis. This one's for a different style wheel, and whenever we ordered that, we didn't know. It was $25 for all 4 of them. But for this style, which is definitely more expensive, it's about $50 per one. So it's $50 for one of these. That's really expensive, and I think it's definitely worth it just to do a little bit of work and paint the outside. And I'd say no matter what, it looks way better than this. Anything would look way better than this. This is really not very good looking. But this is what the original one would have looked like. This color on the outside here, this is like an aluminum color. This matches the color of the wheel. But I think the black will also match, just because tires are black, trim is black. Black just about goes with everything. So here on the wheel of the car, this is what the old one looked like. Definitely not very appealing. And then here's what our restoration looks like on the wheel. Much better, huge improvement. And if you're curious, this is what a brand new one would look like on the wheel if it fit. But that also looks really nice. But I'd say I'm happy with this restoration. We can actually go ahead and snap this into place. You just have to line these pegs up in place. It's always kind of tricky. That one goes right up there. And just like that. And then we'll just... If you were wondering how to take these center caps off in the back and the trunk, there's a toolbox, and there's this little fancy tool that goes right into the hole here, and then you can just pull it off just like that. So here's the old one that was on the car before, and then here's the restored one that we did, and here's what a brand new one would look like. I have to say, for saving $50, this is definitely good enough for me.